Okay, before we get started, I just want to mention a slight warning about this video. The episode I'm going to be talking about has a lot of sexual stuff in it, or at least a lot of sexual stuff for an episode of Star Trek. And as a result, I do curse a lot in the video, and I do so for the sake of humor. I usually try to add humor to what I think is a fair analysis of whatever topic I'm discussing. And I think this turned out to be a pretty funny video. I don't think most of the people who often watch my videos will have any problem with the swearing or the sexual humor, but there is more of it in this video than usual, I think. So I'm just letting you know on the off chance that you have an issue with that, and so you can't say I didn't warn you. And with that out of the way, thank you for all the support as always. I really do appreciate it, and enjoy. Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 19, Manhunt. I wonder how many people actually remembered this episode. It seems to be one that I always forget about. I mean, the title sounds interesting enough, right? Manhunt. So is it like maybe one of the crew is on the run as some sort of fugitive? Is the Enterprise in pursuit of some kind of galactic criminal? No, not at all. It's just the episode where Lwaxana Troy comes on board the Enterprise and she's suffering from the disease of being super horny. It's a manhunt. She's on the hunt for a man. And as ludicrous as that statement is, it doesn't even narrow it down. Like, it doesn't even tell you which episode I'm talking about. It could be any Lwaxana Troy episode. But basically, she's going through something called the phase, and it's something that all Betazoid women go through at some point, and she's horny beyond reason, and she needs to get married. It's basically Betazoid Pon farr, without the apparent threat of death. And the episode is noteworthy only because of its complete and utter banality. I mean, nothing happens in this episode that matters. There is no threat, there is no danger up until the last 3 seconds of the episode. There is no real plot or character development of any kind. And for some reason, my brain decided that I needed to examine just how dull this episode is in the lengthy YouTube video. So here we go. Might as well get started. The episode opens up with the Enterprise beaming up 2 dignitaries from the planet Antid 3. They're escorting them to a conference on the planet Pacifica, where they will try to make their case for admission into the Federation. And this is what they look like. They're just big fish people. How interesting. And one of them is apparently played by legendary musician Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac. You can't really tell which one he is, and he has no speaking lines, but he's here. He's definitely a big Star Trek fan because he's also in the movie The Running Man, and he makes reference to Star Trek in that movie as well. It's pretty cool when super famous people just want to be in Star Trek in any capacity, even if it's not a significant or memorable role. That just shows how huge Star Trek really is. These dudes are pretty odd looking though. And it looks like they're wearing some kind of silver shower curtains. I don't know, it looks like they got their costume ideas from Daniel LaRusso in The Karate Kid. And they're not actually conscious. They're in a self-induced coma, which will allow them to apparently avoid the trauma of space travel. I guess they get space sick. Who the hell knows? And they bring in a barrel of their weird food, which looks like uncooked bouillabaisse. So that's nice. And Worf admires their appearance by saying, "What a handsome race." And on the bridge, Riker asks Wesley what he thought of the Antidians. And Wesley says they're very strange looking. Data says judging a being by its physical appearance is the last major human prejudice. And Picard says, point well taken. I'm sure to the Antidians, we are equally unattractive. I mean, it's kind of weird that they're discussing the appearance of the Antidians. Like, yes, they're weird looking to you and me. But the crew sees strange aliens all the time. Some of them are even serving on the Enterprise. I mean, look at this guy. He's a bit strange looking, wouldn't you say? And he's got a selfie stick coming out of his fucking chest. But no one batted an eye when he was here. And I just think it's weird that the crew are discussing these fish aliens like they're just members of the viewing audience. And they get a hail from a small transport vessel. Troy senses something and reacts almost as though they're in danger. A Starfleet pilot appears on screen and says that he is delivering a VIP passenger to the Enterprise. And Lwaxana Troy appears on screen, and of course, she introduces herself as the daughter of the Fifth House, holder of the sacred chalice of reeks, and the heir to the holy rings of Betazoid. She loves saying those things, as though they mean anything to anyone. I mean, what is so special about being the daughter of the Fifth House? I mean, sure, she's in the top 5, but it's not the first house. And what the hell is the sacred chalice of reeks? It sounds like it stinks. And heir to the holy rings of Betazoid, what the fuck is that? I'm convinced it's some kind of sexual apparatus. It's gotta be. And she says she's representing the Betazoid government at the conference on Pacifica. Why the Enterprise wasn't informed that they're also bringing a high-ranking dignitary from an influential Federation world to this conference, I'll never know. And she tells Jean-Luc that he's thinking naughty thoughts about her, as you do. And she beams on board with her gigantic butler, Mr. Holm. And she is startled at the sight of the Antidian delegates. She says the last time she saw something like that, it was being served on a plate, which is funny, but it's funnier when you consider the fact that she is an ambassador, presumably well-trained in the art of diplomacy, and yet she is never diplomatic. She's just kind of a blunt asshole wherever she goes. And Picard is welcoming her in a full-dress uniform. Why he had time to change in the time it took to beam her aboard, I'll never know. But he's wearing the full-dress Starfleet uniform, and these are the uniforms that are more like a skirt or a kilt. So his legs are exposed. So she naturally has to comment on that. She says he has handsome legs. So we're already off to the races here. And Riker decides to carry her bag, if you can call it that. I mean, it looks like the inner core of a neutron star, and it apparently weighs just as much, since Riker is struggling to carry it, which is actually a nice little callback to Lwaxana Troy's first episode, where Picard carried her absurdly heavy suitcase. And as they make their way to her quarters, Lwaxana communicates telepathically with her daughter. She looks at Riker and says he has nice legs too. Is he still yours? And Deanna says, humans no longer own each other in that way. And Lwaxana says, that's a custom we may have to introduce again. Oh, great. So, Lwaxana Troy is so fucking horny she wants to bring back slavery. What a premise for an episode. And I don't know why she's asking if Deanna and Riker are still together. I mean, that's basically the question she asked. She knows they're not. I don't get it. And Lwaxana invites Picard to a full ambassadorial dinner. He agrees only because he thinks most of the senior staff will be there too. And I have no idea why he would think that when he hasn't told anybody that. Like, surely it's the captain's duty to tell people if there's a special dinner going on. But he just assumes they automatically will know. And on the bridge, he tells Riker that it will be a full-dress dinner. And then he quickly leaves the bridge before Riker can respond. And Riker has no idea what the captain's talking about. No one on the bridge knows either. Now, I get that the captain has left the bridge abruptly. But if he has a question about what he just said before leaving, why doesn't Riker tap the old communicator badge and say, Riker to Captain Picard, hey, what did you mean just now when you said it will be a full-dress dinner? What dinner are you talking about? I mean, that would have solved the upcoming problem, but he doesn't do that. He just sits on the bridge and wonders what the hell the captain could have possibly meant. So naturally, Picard shows up alone to this dinner in Lwaxana's quarters. I mean, the fact that it's even in her quarters should have been his first clue. I mean, the entire senior staff is probably not dining in her quarters. Then again, I'm trying to remember. They might have done that in the first episode that she was in. So maybe they do. Who knows? And Picard brought a bottle of blue something. Maybe it's Romulan ale. Who knows? We'll never find out, though, because Lwaxana Troy's butler, Mr. Holm, decided to chug the whole bottle right here. Clearly, he has a problem, and I don't want to mock him for it. But did you ever think that maybe that bottle wasn't for you? Then again, maybe he needs it. He spends 24 hours a day around Lwaxana Troi. You need a little something to get you through that. So they sit down for this awkward event and eat salad with a fork that has like these super thin prongs on it. And these like acupuncture prongs on the fork. How will the fork be improved in the future? Oh, we'll just have these tiny prongs on it with this curvy thing on the end of it. I mean, this fork is doing a lot right now. A lot more than the episode, anyway. And Lwaxana says she's not very hungry tonight, which is a blessing. Because in some bizarre Betazoid ritual, Mr. Home has to whack the shit out of some chimes every time she takes a bite of food. It is obnoxious. And she may not be hungry, but she's clearly thirsty. She wants to jump Picard's bones right here and now in front of Mr. Home. And Picard is doing his best to dodge her advances. And if this episode is just going to be about Lwaxana Troi needing to get laid, at some point you just got to get in there and take care of business. She's a Federation dignitary. It is your duty as a Starfleet officer to aid her in her time of need. If Captain Kirk was here, this episode would have been 20 minutes long. Okay, I mean, I'm obviously joking around, but in all seriousness, how is this the plot of the episode? It's season 2. Why does it feel like they've already run out of ideas? In any case, Picard comes up with an ingenious strategy. He says he wonders how many other cultures have similar dinner time rituals, referring to the chimes, of course. So he hits his communicator badge, and he asks Data to explain more. He shows up and gives a full-on cultural lecture to Lwaxana and Picard. And this bores Lwaxana to no end. She's so bored she's not even horny anymore. In fact, she is doubled over, engulfed in boredom. It's a miracle. And in the corridors, Troi bumps into Dr. Pulaski, and they talk for a bit. She tells Pulaski about her mother's current condition, something called the phase. Pulaski says it sounds a bit like human menopause, and Troi says it's somewhat similar, but what it really means is that her mother is becoming fully sexual. And I don't know why Troi waited until now to mention this to someone. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a problem. Not that Troi has any right to, tell people about her mother's medical conditions, but when Lwaxana Troi is making it so obvious anyway, she might as well warn people about it, but she never does until this moment. And Pulaski mentions that she saw Picard on his way to Lwaxana's quarters earlier. Deanna says she should go warn him. And Pulaski says this.
I wonder if I shouldn't warn him.
No. As ship's doctor, I'd consider it an excellent exercise for his reflexes and agility.
Doctor?
For staying ahead of your mother.
Yes. An animal is always at its best when hunted.
Or when hunting.
Do you get it? It's a manhunt. This is pretty hilarious. This is one of the few good Pulaski moments, I think, because it's like she's the only one who realizes how trivial this is. Like, what is the worst that could happen? God forbid the captain should get laid once in a while. Oh, no. But, of course, she is just joking around. The test of his reflexes and agility will be in the form of him trying to avoid the advances. So there you go. But Troi decides to interrupt this dinner anyway. It's perfect timing because Picard uses it as an excuse to get out of there. And on their way back to the bridge, he thanks Data and tells him he'll never know how much he owes him for that. And Data is almost as confused as I am about the whole thing. And after a conversation with her mother, Deanna sits down to talk with Picard and Riker in the captain's ready room. Deanna tells Picard that Lwaxana says that Picard can't stop thinking about her, and that he was basically thinking about sex with her all through dinner, and Picard is shocked. He says, for a telepath, your mother's accuracy leaves much to be desired. And Troi says that her mother's telepathic abilities are normally quite advanced, except for now. Picard and Riker are confused, and Troi explains that her mother is basically going through a stage in life where her sex drive is quadrupled or more. And Troi goes on to say this.
She has decided to focus all her sexual energy on one male who will, of course, eventually become her husband. It seems, Captain, that you are the early favorite.
Congratulations, sir. I'm not amused, number one.
And you gotta love Riker's reaction because he thinks it's all a joke, and of course it is. And Picard wants to just reject Lwaxana outright and put this whole thing behind him. But Deanna tells him not to apply human standards to this situation. Her mother would be shocked and deeply resentful if Picard spurns her advances. Okay, so what? Is she an internet incel now? What the fuck is going on here? Get over it. But rather than hurt her feelings, Picard decides to make himself unavailable for the rest of the journey to Pacifica. He dresses up in his finest Inspector Gadget outfit and goes into the holodeck to run one of his Dixon Hill detective programs. But all he does in this program is go into his office, turn on some music, and put his feet up at the desk. Is this really the most interesting thing you can be doing on the holodeck? I mean, there's got to be something better than this. My imagination is running wild with the possibilities right now. And all of it is better than sitting at a desk in the 1940s. But thankfully, something does happen in this program. His secretary, Madeline, says there's a gentleman here to see him, and his name is Slate Bender. And we can only hope it's a nickname. And he's here to kill Dixon Hill, because someone he knows is being indicted for murder thanks to Dixon Hill. He takes out a gun, and Picard ducks and says freeze program, which seems like cheating if you ask me, but okay. And he tells the computer that this is too violent. He's here to relax, not dodge bullets. And we have to assume that the violence he's experiencing is true to the Dixon Hill novels that he's so fond of. So why is he even running this program if he wants to relax? And he asks the computer for more ambience and less substance, which is great because this episode has neither one of those things. And a new guy walks in, and he's played by Robert O'Reilly, a.k.a. Gowron. Surely you recognize those eyes. And he asks Picard, or Dixon in this case, if he's a private dick, which is perfectly legal as long as it's not a public dick. And it turns out that he's also here to kill Dixon Hill. So he freezes the program once again, and he says this is still too violent. And finally the computer says that the flexibility of the program is limited to the parameters of the Dixon Hill novels, which should be kind of obvious. I mean, violence is clearly a key element to these stories. So if he's not in the mood for that, why is he even running this program? If I'm not in the mood for a violent video game, I'm not going to be playing GTA or Mortal Kombat. I'll probably play, I don't know, Stardew Valley or Mario Kart. Maybe that's a bad example because Mario Kart is pretty violent. Watch out for those turtle shells. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, then again, now that I'm thinking about it, why does the holodeck program have these limitations? Like, it's not the same as a video game. You can make it anything you want. There's basically no rules, so I don't know why the computer is acting like there are rules. And I also wonder what would happen if one of these characters actually did shoot Picard. Because the holodeck safeties are presumably functional. So is it just game over? Does it start up again? Who knows? But because he keeps freezing the damn program, it's like the episode is purposely denying the audience any entertainment. Because these guys just barge in and it's like, oh, maybe something finally is going to happen in this show. And even if it's just a holodeck fantasy, but no, we get denied. Because Picard would rather sit at his desk in his dick outfit and do nothing. I mean, this is a massive scene in the episode. And what is the point of it? I mean, if you really want to relax, why don't you fire up one of Riker's programs? I bet that's plenty relaxing. Anyway, in the transporter room, Worf is observing the unconscious Antidians. He respects them. He says they have a dignity about them and a graceful countenance. And Wesley says, if you say so. He obviously still can't get past their appearance, and Worf asks if this is how he felt when he first saw him. And Wesley says, maybe at first, but now that I've seen more Klingons, I think you're handsome for a Klingon. What is happening? What is this dialogue? Why can't Wesley just say something for once that is not awkward? Like, he just insulted Worf and every single Klingon, and he was trying to be nice. I both hate Wesley in this scene, and I sympathize with him, because I've also had similar awkward interactions where you're trying to say something complimentary, but you end up sounding like an asshole. And Lwaxana walks in, and she starts hitting on Worf. She says he's primal and savage, and that's something she likes in a man. And Worf says, I'm not a man. And she says, pity, you'd have made a fine choice. I don't know what to do with this now. I mean, Lwaxana wants to fuck everything on two legs, and Worf says he's not a man. But he's still a male, right? That's what she's talking about. But they just both agree that he's not a man, and it's very weird, it's very strange, and obviously Lwaxana is annoyed that Picard isn't around, so she's looking for a substitute. And the standards are not all that high. There are 1,000 people on this ship. I can't believe that she hasn't found somebody to bang yet. And I also can't believe that who she bangs or doesn't bang is the plot of the episode. Oh, I'm actually sweating right now. I mean, this is like a shameful disgrace. It really is. But moving on. Picard, as Dixon Hill, decides to go to a place called Rex's Bar with his secretary Madeline, and Madeline gives him a handgun. She says, if we're going to Rex's Bar, you're going to need it. And spoiler alert, he will not need it. This is literally a Chekhov's gun violation. They have just made a point of introducing a gun that will never get used. And I guess Picard just got tired of sitting at his desk waiting for people to shoot him. They head to this bar, they sit down, and Rex, the bartender, warns Dixon about some guy named Jimmy Kuzo, a big gangster who went to jail because of Dixon Hill's testimony. And I guess he's back on the street somehow. And you'd think that Jimmy Kuzo, this Jimmy Kuzo thing, is going to lead somewhere, right? I mean, why mention him if nothing's going to happen? Why bring up this character? Surely there's a reason. They're not just killing time with this conversation, right? Wrong. That's exactly what they're doing. Jimmy Kuzo never shows up. None of this matters. They're filling time. Or, if I wanted to be generous, I wonder if maybe they had planned to do a couple of Dixon Hill holodeck stories each year, and maybe they were hoping to pick up this storyline in the future. I mean, that would have been cool, but obviously they never ended up doing that. So, moving on. And on the bridge, Lwaxana now seems interested in Riker. And isn't that just a little fucked up? The love of your daughter's life? You're just gonna swoop in and try to bang your daughter's ex and future boyfriend? What are you doing? Get your shit together, lady. For the love of the holy rings of Betazoid, go to your quarters and rub one out like the rest of us before someone strangles you to death, will you please? But she doesn't do that. She just announces to the bridge crew that she is getting married to Commander Riker. She never discusses this with Riker or her daughter. There was no proposal of any kind, no courtship. She is just living in this psychotic fantasy where she is marrying her daughter's ex-lover. Where's Dr. Pulaski? Honestly, because something is wrong with Lwaxana Troy's brain, and I think she might need a lobotomy. Because she has now become so horny that she is fully insane. But I guess Pulaski has her hands full with the Antidians, who are now ready to wake up in sickbay. Riker decides to inform the captain of this, as well as their Lwaxana Troi problem, by going into the holodeck with Data. Once again, that's something that could be done over communications, but they decide to do it in person. And Data is in costume for the holodeck, but Riker is not. No idea why. I guess Data just likes immersing himself in the holodeck. And they tell Picard that the Antidians are ready to be revived. And Riker also tells Picard that Lwaxana wants to marry him. I don't know what Picard is expected to do about this. We'll never know, because like a lost puppy, Lwaxana follows Riker and Data into the holodeck. She's disappointed to see Picard hiding in here, trying to ignore her, but she soon forgets about that when Rex, the fucking holodeck bartender, starts to charm her. She says she's never met anyone like him. She gets no thoughts from him. She's intrigued. So, in case you're not following, Lwaxana Troi somehow doesn't know she's in a holodeck. She just apparently thinks that this 24th century Federation starship has a bar from 1940s Earth on it. The horniness has killed her brain. And in sickbay, the Antidian delegates are finally awake. And they start chowing down on their bouillabaisse. And for some reason, Worf grabs a scoopful of it like they're just going to eat it out of his hands. It's all needlessly gross. And they arrive at Pacifica, finally. It feels like this trip took forever. Lwaxana heads to the transporter room to beam down. She is frustrated that Rex turned out to be not real, but I guess she'll just have to get over it. She enters the transporter room, and the Antidian delegates are beaming down with her, since they're obviously all going to the same conference. And Lwaxana Troi just kind of casually says they're not delegates, they're assassins. They have explosive materials on them, and they're planning on blowing up the whole conference. Why the hell security on the Enterprise couldn't detect this, I have no idea. Mr. Worf, you're fired. I guess he forgot to do his job because he was too awestruck by how sexy these fish head motherfuckers are. So they take the Antidians to a holding cell, and Lwaxana prepares to depart. She beams down, but before she goes, she says, "Shame on you, Jean-Luc, for thinking such a thing," which is kind of funny because her telepathic abilities seem to be working again. So maybe he did have a momentary naughty thought. Happens to the best of us. And that's how the episode ends. Shockingly, the episode ends with something finally happening. The Antidians were assassins this whole time, and we just found out within the last 30 seconds. And, I mean, that could have been the episode. Why were they planning to blow up the conference? What is their motivation? What are their politics like? Why do they have an axe to grind with the Federation? These are all things that could have been the basis for an entire episode that has a story and a plot. And, you know, doesn't revolve around some horned up elitist ambassador. Oh man, what an episode. It feels like kind of a forgotten episode, with good reason, because nothing happens. There's no danger, at least not until the last 30 seconds, and it immediately gets resolved. There's no plot, really. There's just an escort mission, and all they do for the whole journey is try to avoid Lwaxana Troi's loins. That's it. I mean, how is this an episode? Ultimately, it does have some entertainment value in how absurd it is, but overall, it's definitely one you can skip. And you know, Lwaxana Troi is an interesting character. I actually think she's normally pretty funny, but in this episode, she just kind of comes across as obnoxious. I mean, even more obnoxious than usual. I mean, by the time she announces to the bridge crew that she's marrying Commander Riker without any consent whatsoever, it's just like, okay, this lady needs to go to bed. And it's funny that she ends up on the holodeck and doesn't know it's a holodeck. I mean, that is a setting where she could have gotten her rocks off without bothering the rest of the crew. It's a shame Deanna never suggested it. It might have at least cleared up her horny brain fog for a while. And if you think about it, Lwaxana Troy is kind of a terrible person. She's always saying these rude things and these innuendos that really kind of border on harassment, if we're being honest. But what's even worse is that she's an empath, so she can sense how uncomfortable people are feeling when she says these things, and yet she's still doing it. I don't know. Lwaxana Troy is one of a kind. And to be fair, she's not usually this nuts. The horny has broken her brain in this one, and we've all been there. But I should probably wrap this up. I can't believe I spent nearly 30 minutes talking about such a nothing episode, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Let me know what you think of this episode, and until next time, take it easy.